Good morning, everyone. I am going to enjoy sharing my knowledge of how to increase your chances of hiring the right person. And I've had many years of helping clients hire the right person, and I've seen many people hire the wrong person. So I will enjoy sharing some of the tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way. So I'm going to share my screen, and then I will unshare it sometimes when I'm talking. So this is about becoming an actual master of hiring. This is what the point of this is about, is we're going to become a master at it so that the people that we have in our team are the people that we really want to have. So one of the first things that, we look at when becoming a master of networking is saying, okay, let's have a look here. What are we actually looking for? So often when I've spoken to clients about looking for the right person, they're actually not sure what they're looking for. So I'll give you, I'm going to stop sharing so I can talk to you. I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So often people have said we're bursting at the seams, we need to hire a new person for our team. But the thing is, they're not actually sure of what that actual person's role is, because it's just that they're bursting at the seams. They know they need more help. But one of the things is that they haven't actually got clear of what is this person going to do? Where are they in the org chart? What's their role going to be? So, and I know it sounds crazy, but it happens time and time again where people are hiring for somebody and they haven't actually stepped back before they put the ad up to say, okay, who is this person that we need? And yes, we've got too much work, we need to get somebody on, but let's get very clear about what are the ideal personality traits of this person. What are the top 5 behavioural traits? What are they actually going to be performing? And I know it sounds crazy, but creating a job description and being very clear of what are the KPIs of this person we're looking for before you put the ad out. And so many people just don't do this. So it's really important to be very clear on what is that job description, what is that role before you put the ad up, and get that very clear where it sits in the org chart, what are their actual KPIs, and what are the ideal personality traits and the necessary skills that this person will be needing. So that's my first tip. Now, I'll share my screen again. When we're looking here now, the next thing we want to look at is say, okay, well, let's have a look at putting forward here, who is this ideal candidate? My screen's not working too well from the current slide. Okay, let's go. Hopefully you will be able to see this. It's not working. Now, hopefully you'll be able to see it. So who is the ideal candidate that you're actually looking for? So I'm looking here for the ideal candidate, but for some reason my screen is not working. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I will stop sharing screen because it's not working for some reason. Okay, so the ideal candidate that we're actually looking for. So the next thing is to say, okay, let's do the job ad. So job ad is the next thing that we're wanting to do. Is the job ad is looking at saying, okay, where does this ideal person that you're looking for, where do they actually hang out? Where is this ideal person hanging out? Sometimes people just, the first thing they want to do is put an ad in, one of the job ad, recruitment places. So, if they're an employed person, are they actually going to be looking there, or are they not going to be looking there? Where is the person hanging out? Because at the moment, If they're employed, they might not be looking at Seek. They might not be looking at LinkedIn. So where else would they be looking? They might have chat groups. They might have Facebook groups. They might be as part of groups in LinkedIn. They might be in sporting groups. So get very clear about where is this ideal candidate actually hanging out. That's the next step, is get clear on that. And then we need to post an advertisement that's actually going to attract them. So, I see so many ads, and I saw one recently where every single ad was exactly the same, and they all looked identical. What can you say that will make the person stand out? So looking at the ad, it's got to attract them. It's an advertisement. So when we have an ad, we want to say, all right, what is the problem that we're trying to solve for this person that we're trying to attract? So it's the beginning of the ad, you've got about 3 seconds. So you've got about 3 seconds to attract the person that you want to have in your team, wherever they're hanging out. So when we look at an advertisement in marketing sense, it's about solving a problem, and it's about attracting them with what's on their mind. So if someone's already employed and the culture's not very good, or they're not being rewarded and recognised, or they are not having any opportunities for growth, or they've got no career opportunities, they're not learning. These are all the things that keep people engaged in the workplace. So when we're advertising, it needs to be speaking to the person first. Are you appropriately, rewarded at your job? Do you love being part of a fun team? What is it that they don't like about their job, and what is it that we want to attract them with? Because if you just start the ad with, we are the best, or we've been around for this long, they don't care about that. They don't know who you are, and each job looks exactly, we're looking for an experienced whatever. We've been around for a long time. We have an opportunity. Boring. We don't want to be boring. We want to have the ad that speaks to them, so that when they look at that ad and read that, they go, oh, that's me. That's exactly me. I need to speak to these people. So we're actually speaking directly to the person that we want to have in our company. So that's the next thing, writing the ad. So after you've written the ad, then there's going to be lots and lots and lots of actual resumes. So when we go with the resumes, I'm going to try and share this screen again, and I'm going to see if it will work this time. I'm not sure if it will, but I'll try. So no, it's still not working. Anyway, that's fine. I will just keep sharing my knowledge. So resumes. So when we're going through the resumes, a couple of things that I've seen that will help dramatically: have a close date, so that it's not open-ended, because some people will say, oh, I've had the job ad up for ages. So wherever you're advertising, whether it's in the local football club newsletter, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on a community chat group, wherever it is, there needs to be a call to action. There needs to be an end date when we're actually having people apply. The next thing, we need to make sure that there is actually some kind of process that you go through resumes. You don't need to, if you're getting 50 resumes at the moment, you're probably not, because at the moment the market's a bit tight. But if you're getting a lot of resumes, you don't need to read every single one. So we're looking at things like, if we've asked for a cover letter, do they have a cover letter on the resume? If we've asked for example, we might have asked for something like they need to be creative in their writing. Well, we need to look and say, okay, is their writing creative? So it needs to be making sure that that we, I suppose, are really honing in on what we're actually looking for. Now, I've seen some fun, creative ways of people actually getting other people to apply. One of the ways I've seen that's creative is if the job involves a lot of phone work, I've had people ask them to leave a voice recording, because then we can see whether their English is good, whether they speak clearly, and that way you don't need to read 1,000,001 resumes. You can just say, okay, please leave a voice message, explaining why you'd like to be, considered for this position that involves great phone skills and someone who loves talking to people. So that way you're testing out what the actual job is. Another one, a creative thing that I had someone do recently, the person that he was hiring needed to be really good with social media and needed to be having a really good eye at videoing, at posting, at all of that side of thing. So he got them to do a selfie video of why they should be actually considered for the position. That was the first step. And then it was getting the credentials after that. So if someone's not au fait with that, well, they're not going to be good with the job. So another one is if there's minimum requirements. Now, just getting clear of have they met those minimum requirements before you start looking through 1,000,001 resumes is really important. So next step then is to set up the interviews. Now, generally, I would only say 3 interviews at the most because you probably won't have any more than that. That way, you can really hone it down. So in the interviews, and I've had many business owners that said, oh, I don't know how to do this. This is, they might be hiring for a GM for the first time or hiring for a senior management role. So things to remember when you're doing the interview, conducting the interview is really it's an audition. It's an audition. They're auditioning for you and you're auditioning for them. So we're wanting to really make sure that there's a fit between both of you. So when we do the interview, plan out how the interview is actually going to go. Now, one of the things that I have found be very valuable with business owners is offering them a problem to solve, offering them a problem to solve in that interview. So making sure that they know when you come in, we're going to be going through a few different things. You're going to be meeting the team, etc., and we're going to get you to solve a couple of problems. So have the interview planned out, have the agenda for the interview planned out. So sort of problems, I've seen bookkeepers get them to do, I think Xero or some of the bookkeepers have little tests. If it's a sales role, get them to create a sales pitch. If it's maybe a bookkeeping role, get them to do some entering or reconciling. Communications role might be getting them to write an internal communication. Graphic design, it might be do a compelling ad for whatever it is. So always get them to solve a problem. Always get them to have a challenge in the interview, but that's going to be planned beforehand. And make sure that there is also a time limit on that. And then that way also, if there's any kind of wording involved, there's a word count as well involved in that. So this is giving you a really great opportunity to see, okay, we've got a few people here. How long do they take to do this job? What's their skills level like at actually doing that job? And then it's going to be so much easier for you to see, okay, this is a perfect person. So those of you that have just come on the webinar, no idea, but my slides are not actually sharing, so you're just going to have to put up with me. So next thing is the interview. So you've prepared for the interview, you've got your challenge, and sometimes people might have them doing the challenge maybe in a separate room or while they're doing another interview. So you don't have to be sitting in front of them making them nervous. Interestingly enough, I've got a bit of a runny nose here today, so my apologies for my croaky voice. I had a client that was hiring for an IT person, and he had them come into a small group interview and then had them coming. He addressed them all together, told them about the company, and then he took them out and had a chat to them one at a time. But interestingly enough, he got a couple of his team members that would be working with them to sit in the room with them. And so then they didn't know that they weren't being interviewed as well. They thought they were being interviewed, waiting for an interview. So he got to see how they interacted and how friendly they were, and just finding out from the outsider's perspective what they were like. And again, he got them to do a challenge while he was waiting. So when we get to the interview, first thing to remember with the interview is I would hope that if somebody is a right person for the role, that you would actually do 2 interviews. If it's an integral role for your business, I would always do 2 interviews. So the first interview, have that at your place of business. And then if the interview goes well, take them for a tour of the company and also get them to meet all of the team. And this is really interesting because, I had a business owner that took me for a tour on his company. And I thought, if I was being interviewed, and in a way I was being interviewed because I was deciding whether I wanted to take him on as a client, the way he spoke to his team and the way they addressed him was diabolical. Every single person he pretty much swore at and complained about their workstation. And there was no smiles, there was no happiness, there was no high fives, there was no how are yous. The culture was awful. So if your culture looks like that, maybe it's worth, trying to tweak that culture before you hire an important person that wants to actually see that. And it was funny because that particular day I did another tour of another organisation, and chalk and cheese. Every single person stopped, said hello, smiled, shook my hand, was proud of their work. The business owner proudly introduced each person and said, hey, this is Suzanne. She's going to be helping us. Amazing difference. So just get very clear on what would you like. Remember, they're interviewing you and you're interviewing them. What would they like to see when they go around your organisation? So the interview would really be all about the organisation, all about introducing the people, doing the tour, and then going through and asking the candidate some questions. So if we're looking at interview questions, we really want to make sure that Pareto's rule that you might have heard about, that 80-20 rule, we really want to have them talking 80% of the time should be them talking. And 20% of the time is you talking. It's not a time where you just get to talk the whole time and listen to yourself. It's really about them. So some of the things to think about, have some pre-prepared questions and not open-ended questions. So anything that pertains to the role. So if it's about customer service, tell me a situation where you might have had a disgruntled customer. How did you handle it? What was the process you took them through and how did you feel afterwards? If they were looking at a role that might be around leadership. So tell me about a time when you inspired or energized your team and what was the result? Tell me about a time that you had a challenging team member or had a crisis. How did that pan out? So we're wanting to ask them for I suppose, questions that will get them to reflect back on situations where they've got evidence of being in that situation. Examples of teamwork. We want evidence that they have got the necessary skills and attributes to do the job that you're actually asking them to do. And it doesn't necessarily have to have been in another role. It could just be in life. So, for example, if you've got a role where you've got a lot of teamwork involved, I've often got clients to talk to them about, okay, so give me some examples where you've really enjoyed teamwork. And it might be in the sporting arena. They might have captained a cricket team or they might have coached, a cricket team or a football team or something like that. So prepare the interview questions with in mind the role that they're going to do, and the interview questions are aimed at getting real life examples and evidence that they can actually do the job that you're requiring them to do. We want evidence and examples, especially in the workforce. If we can get that evidence that we can actually validate that evidence in some way, that would be even better. So they might say, I organised this great conference and, this is what we did and this was the agenda. Well, they can show you all of that. They can share that with you. So then yes, they've got good organisational skills, they've got good leadership and teamwork skills, if that's what it requires. Another thing which I find quite interesting when we're looking at, interviewing is try and break the norm. Try not to be the normal boring interview. We want yours to stand out. If someone's not if they're not happy in their current role, they're going for interviews. They're going for there's lots of jobs out at the moment. They're going for lots of interviews. What can you say that will break you out of the norm, that will be interesting? In my research, I found some funny questions that some very well-known companies ask. And I wanted to share them because they're quite funny. If you were a crayon, what colour would you be? Or why are manholes round? What's your favourite song? If you were a dog, what breed would you be? Some people like to ask, what are their top 5 favourite books? So what kind of culture do you want to be known as? When they're coming to have an interview with you, is it going to be fun? Is it going to stand out from the rest? And that's what we want. We want our company to stand out from all the other companies that they're going for interviews in, because in this current market that we've got, people are very mindful of organisations that look after their people, and they're mindful of organisations that create a great culture. So we're wanting to make sure that in the interview, we reflect that in the interview, that we do break out of the norm and ask questions that, are not your normal everyday questions that somebody would normally ask. So think of questions that would relate to your job or your organisation, that would inspire them and set them apart. When we're going for lots of interviews, it would set you apart in the interview process. Other thing to think about is keep them talking. You want to know as much about them as possible, and it doesn't just have to be about work. Find out what are they interested in. Find out what are their hobbies. Find out their aspirations. What do they do outside of work? What things really get them excited and get them talking? Who are the people that they look up to? Who are the people they admire? Ask questions that will allow them to talk. Another thing that's interesting is, what research have they done on the organisation? How much do they know about the organisation? And often I've seen people go for interviews and they haven't even done any research on the organisation or on the people that head that organisation. So really get them to talk a lot about what their thoughts are on the organisation, what they do outside of work time, what's fun, what inspires them, where they see themselves in their career, and why they're applying to come in your organisation. So we really want them to do lots of talking, and please take lots of notes, because if you're interviewing a few people, then it's quite hard to go back and remember. So please take lots and lots of notes. And if you're doing a Zoom interview, because some people are hiring people from overseas now, and there are situations at the moment where people are getting people from overseas. There's a fast track program that they're doing to get people from overseas at the moment, for people to come through that are skilled, because we've got such a shortage at the moment. So if you're on Zoom, where you're doing the interview, make sure you record, pardon my nose, make sure you record the interview, so that then you can go back and look at the body language. You can go back and read through the interview. So keep them talking is really important. Just be mindful, 80-20 rule. 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you want them talking, 20% you're just giving them nice little open-ended questions. So other things. At the end of the interview, be sure to ask your candidate if they have any other questions. I would really like a good candidate to have had a list of questions. We would really like them to have a list of questions, so that you can see they've prepared. So that's what we want, is we want them to really come prepared with questions for the actual, understanding more information about the company. The other thing as well is finishing off the interview with what they can expect. So closing the interview, really get them clear of what is the timeline of the interview process. If you've got other people to interview, let them know. If you find out if they're going for any other interviews, tell them your timeline. It's really important to give them a timeline. The other thing that's also important is I had an organisation that a friend of mine was applying for, and they never got back to her. I really think it's really respectful to get back to everybody that applies for a role, whether you interview them or not. Just let them know the timeline, let them know what's going on. Now, this person was actually contacted by the organisation, but it took them about 3 months to contact her after she applied, and she hadn't heard a word from them. And she decided she didn't want to work with a company like that, a company that disrespected people so much that they didn't have the common decency to get somebody to actually reply to all the candidates. And if you're, have got an ad in a platform like Seek or something like that, it's not very difficult to reply to all the people that have actually applied for the job. So make sure you give them a timeline and stick to that timeline. Please stick to the timeline. So if you say, we will get back to you by tomorrow afternoon, please get back to them by tomorrow afternoon. Be honest and really be clear of what they can expect, and find out if they can be honest with you as far as what are the jobs they're going for, and if they feel that the job suits them. Find out there and then if they feel like it really is a good fit from what they're at now, what the difference, why it's a good fit, why it's better than the job that they're currently at now, and what appeals to them, so that you can be very transparent from the start. So other things to think about is when doing the interview. So you've had the first interview, second interview. With a second interview, I think it's really important to have that second interview with the people that work with them. Now, you might do this as part of the first interview if it's in a situation like it is now, where it's hard to get good people. But I think it's important to have a conversation and meet the people that they're potentially working with. Often I've seen business owners that will hire somebody or interview somebody, and they're actually not working with that person. They're not giving them the opportunity to meet the person they've been working with, or to get them to meet them and have a chat with them. So it really gives the other team members that have a different perspective an opportunity to say if you think they fit or not. What Brad Sugars always recommends is to take them out for the second interview in a coffee shop, and get the team members they're working with there to have the chat there. So it's quite informal. This way, the second interview, you get to see, okay, how do they treat the waiters? How do they treat the other people in the organisation? What's their timing like? How keen are they to meet the other members? So often a second interview will be in a neutral environment that they can get a relaxed atmosphere, that they get to meet the other team members. Often you'll get 3 or 4, come and meet them for a coffee, say, look, we're going through the process, we're really excited, you've made it to the second interview, and we're going to do that in the coffee shop down the road, so it's less formal. And we're just going to have an opportunity for you to have a chat and meet the other people that you'll be working with. This way, it really gives you a second opportunity to see if they're a good fit, and in a different environment. So that can often help, very much so. Other things that often help people is social media. Now, there's a lot of controversy about this, but most people would get a sense of looking at social media whether the person is a right fit for the job. Now, sometimes, I would not recommend to look at it before you interview them, but potentially some people like to have a look at it afterwards, because we can see, if the things they say they do in their spare time, or their hobbies, if their social media actually reflects their hobbies. The other thing that's interesting is sometimes you'll have common friends and common colleagues, so you can find out, how well do they know this person. It also gives you a good idea of what their cultural fit is like, and if if you feel that there is a good fit for your organisation. So some people, I know there's a bit of controversy about this, whether it's a good idea or not. But personally, I think it's a great idea, especially if you look on someone's LinkedIn profile and you see what they've been posting, and you see if the things that they've been posting about and if their values are aligned with your company values. And it's really important to make sure that the person you're hiring's values are aligned with your company values. So even though they might say they are in the interview, if you have a look at their social media, we can actually see whether they really are telling the truth, whether they are actually aligned with your company's values. So another tool that I use that is instrumental in ensuring that you have successful people in your employment is I do a DISC profile on generally the top 2 or 3 applicants. Now, a DISC profile, I wish I could share this with you. I will try again to share it with you and see if I can. From the current slide, let's see if I can share it. Let's go and see if I can. Maybe. No, it's not working. So that's okay. I will explain it. So when we look at a DISC profile, we're finding out, is the person, and there is no right or wrong in a DISC profile, there just is. There is no, it's not a test, it's just getting to find out what kind of personality are you. So when we look at a DISC profile, people are either process focused or people focused, and they're either faster paced or slower paced. So they're either guarded or they're either direct. So we're wanting to find out, is this person's personality a fit with the current team that's there? And are they a fit with the role that's required? For example, you've got your conscientious person. Now, your conscientious person is slower paced, task orientated. Now, they're ideal for being a bookkeeper. They're ideal for being an accountant. They're ideal for an IT person. But if we were, say, looking for a salesperson, we'd be looking for an influencer. So they're faster paced and people orientated. So if there's customer service involved, you'd want someone who's an influencer because they're people. So another style is the steady person or stable person. Now, these are a lot slower, but they're people orientated and they're quite indirect. So these people are great for orderlies, for nurses, for customer service. These are very patient people. And lastly, we've got the dominant person. These are the fast-paced, direct people. And these are people who you might have doing debt collecting. This might be a GM. This might be somebody who is a scheduler. So they've got to be quick, fast, and they've got to be very direct and very process-driven. So when we're at the end stages of hiring a people, so many times I've had a client that's had 2 people that are perfect for the role, and we do the DISC profile, and then once we've done the profile, we realise there's one person that is a standout perfect match for the job and the other is not. And often it's a great idea before we even start putting the ad in the paper or start interviewing to just draft out what the ideal personality is for the role. So, excuse my nose. So I might be saying to a client, okay, is this a role where they have to be dealing with a lot of people? If we're talking about 100% of their job, what percentage of it is dealing with people, face-to-face human beings? Probably only 10%. Most of the time they're stuck in an office. Great, okay. So that means we don't want an influencer because they get bored. So then we say, all right, how fast-paced and how accurate do they need to be? Very. This is, a technical role. Okay, well, it sounds like a high C, a conscientious person would be ideal for this role. Do they need to direct people at all? Do they need to, have a dominance about them? Yeah, they do. They've got a team of 6. Great. So we want about midway of the D. So if we can draft out a bit of a draft DISC profile before the job, before we actually advertise for the job, before we look for the job, before we look for the person, then it just makes it so much easier. It's almost like a trick. It's almost like, we can really see what this ideal role, this ideal personality is before we hire the person. The other thing that sits behind the DISC profile is their motivators. So what actually motivates the person? And we get that pardon me, from the report as well. So we find out, what are they motivated by? You know, are they motivated by, you know, altruistic reasons? So it might be for a greater cause. And if you're a non-for-profit, this is a great one to have. They might be motivated by economics. Now, if they were an accountant or a bookkeeper, or they were, you know, getting involved with time billing, economic will be great. They might be motivated by aesthetics. So if they were a designer or somebody that was creating things, or you would really want them high in aesthetics. So this is what motivates behind them. So we really want their motivators aligned with the role, and we really want their motivators aligned with what the organisation is all about. So I've found this gives you a huge increase in success. And if the DISC profile is totally wrong for the job, and you think, oh, I really like this person, I get on really well with them, I'm going to hire them anyway, time and time again I've seen it happen, it's a disaster. Don't hire a person because you like them, because that's just because you get on. You're wanting to hire a person for a specific role that you don't want to do, or that you've got to delegate. So it's got to be about the role, not about if you like them or not. That's really, really important to understand that. So getting clear of what motivates them and aligning their motivators with their behaviour is another thing to get clear on. So because one person might say in their DISC, they might have tried to make the DISC match the job, but then we find that motivators are totally conflicting. Well, then again, they're not going to be a good fit for the job. So this is the last, you know, one of the last points to ensuring you're really going to get the right person for the job. There's one more. One more thing, that once the DISC profile is done, once you've done the second interview, you've had some great work in their skills test, in their little trial run. The last step is to do the reference checks. Make sure you do reference checks. I would always want 2 reference checks, always, per person that you've employed. Now, you don't necessarily have to do the one that they've actually given you. You could also ask permission to call different people in organisations they've worked with. So we're wanting to confirm and validate everything they've said in the interview to make sure that what they've said is aligned with who they really are. So example, so have the notes there when you're doing the reference check and confirm, okay, John was there at this time. He mentioned that he organised the conference and did this. You know, what was your recollection of that time? I don't think he organised it, someone else did. Okay, right. So we want to confirm and validate everything that they've said in the interview. And I've done reference checks so many times and discovered that what they've told me in the interview is a pack of lies. I had one person who told me that they left because there was not career opportunities. And when I spoke to their boss, they said they'd sacked them because they thought they were doing too many recreational drugs. So it's really important. And I know this is an area that time and time again, business owners are so desperate to get the right person. They don't want to do the reference checks because they're scared that they won't work. But I'm urging you, make sure you tick these boxes, because this will really be the last confirmation that this is the right person. And another thing is asking them if they'll hire them again. Important question. Another important question, what is their greatest strength that they brought to your organisation, and what is the biggest area that you think that they can improve on? So finding out what's the area that they can improve on is really key, because then you can actually confirm that with the applicant and make sure that they're aware of that area. Because if it's something that they were working on, we want to know that they're working on it. So do the reference checks, confirm everything that they've said in the interview, and confirm that they are a right fit for the job, making sure that they understand that the cultural fit of your organisation, and generally they're really happy to talk to you. The last thing that I would suggest, go with your gut. So often when people are doing reference checks, the person that they're doing the reference check with will say, oh yes, they say all the right answers. Oh yes, well, you know, how were they? Oh, they were great. You know, did they do this job? Yeah, right. We want to know, what are they not saying? What's in between the lines? Because often people won't want to say anything bad. So find out what is going on in between the lines. What haven't they said? So asking them open-ended questions again. So you're almost interviewing them, asking them open-ended questions and listening for what are they not saying? What are the things that they're not sharing with you that they are just not wanting to give too much information? And then go with your gut. Just feel, okay, are they really confident about this person being a good fit, or are they not? And listen to your gut, because it's generally right. Once you've done all that homework, you're generally right. So the steps that I've been through today, to just recap, is first step, and I outline this in detail in my book. The first step is to make sure you're very clear on the role that you're actually hiring, the description, the kind of personality that's required for the job, and where it sits in the org chart. Then next step is put an advertisement out that is attracting the person that you want to have in your team, that's addressing the problems that they have. And you don't need to just put it in Seek or one of the job places, because the good people are always employed, generally, unless they've moved here or something like that. So ensure that you put out notices in other places. Where are they hanging out? And direct them to the ad or the Seek ad. So put lots of messages out in your community and in chat groups and wherever this person, this ideal person, is hanging out. Then next step, prepare for your interview. Prepare very well. They're interviewing you as well as you interviewing them. So prepare for the interview with making sure the team know that there's someone coming. Get the place looking good, prep them that you're really, wanting to show them around. Get a little test or assignment or challenge prepared for them to do with very clear instructions. Get your questions prepared before the interview, making sure they're open-ended and getting them talking. Make sure that you take your notes or get the interview recorded. Once you've done the interview, give them a tour, get them to meet the team, and then get them very clear on the next step, and make sure that you actually follow through with that next step. Don't say, I'm going to ring you by tomorrow if you don't. And then ensure that they're kept up to date with the process. And if people weren't interviewed, make sure you let them know as well. Then we go on to the second interview, and preferably meet more of the team in the second interview. If they're still successful, they're the right fit, then we'll be looking at getting a DISC profile. If they're still a right fit from this DISC profile, some people get the DISC profile done in the second interview. I would prefer the DISC profile, and I can share DISC profiles with you. I'm a authorised DISC, certified DISC coach. With the DISC profiles, I would probably have them do it on your premises or with you, because otherwise they might overthink it, because it needs to be natural. It needs to be off the cuff. It needs to be the first answer that comes to the head. We don't want them to overthink it. So the DISC profile would probably be done in the second interview, or it will be done in the first interview. Sorry, pardon me. Then once we've done the second interview, we're really happy with them, then we want to do the reference checks. Do not leave the reference checks out. And then the next thing is we're going to offer them a position and get all our paperwork in order, and then start working on your induction and making sure your induction is going to be an amazing induction. So I hope that has helped those that have shared this with me today. And I'm sorry about my voice. I'm having a bit of a croaky voice and a cold, and I apologise that my slides didn't work, but I got everything out that I wanted to get out. And if there's any questions, feel free to email me, and thank you for those that have been on. And I know this will increase your chances of success in employing the right person if you follow the tips that I've used over the last 30 odd years that have worked for me. And I wish you all the best, and I look forward to hearing any questions or getting people's feedback, and good luck. Thank you.